Hey, Bay Ridge. Happy holidays. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Dan, and welcome to Radio Free Bay Ridge, your hyper-local, progressive neighborhood podcast coming at you from the end of the year. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, and not just the end of any year, the end of 2020.
Oh, could not come fast enough, Rachel.
But not dumpster fire of a year.
Let's close the lid on this dumpster.
There's literally, I love it, at the bookmark shop, they literally have a Christmas ornament that's just a dumpster fire with 2020 written on it.
Go down to your avenues, get some stuff, if they have not already closed because of COVID-related things.
I was actually out on Small Business Saturday, which is, as everyone knows, the Saturday right after Thanksgiving. And while some of the stores were a little crowded for my taste, it was really good that, folks were out, they were supporting businesses. If you, like me, do not want to walk into a store that has 30 people in it already, go out now, check things out on weekdays. That's really going to help a lot of our businesses in a really, really rough winter.
Oh yeah, a rough winter, and it's been a rough summer, it's been a rough fall, it's gonna be a rough spring. Let's not beat around the bush, this is gonna be really tough. We are approaching a real economic crisis in the city and in the nation, and we gotta stick together, and that's kind of what this episode is about, giving you guys a couple of ways that you could do that.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that so much has changed this year. We've all come to new ways of hanging out with our friends, of being part of our community. Even the podcast we now record over Zoom from the opposite ends of the neighborhood rather than crowded together in our podcast studio. And the holidays, while we have to practice them a little bit differently this year just to be responsible and safe, there are traditions that are still taking place. And I don't know if anybody's been out on 3rd or 5th or 86th, but for example, our holiday lights are back up in Bay Ridge.
I know some people don't care, and some people care a whole lot about those lights. And you can go back to our, we were interviewing the folks at the 3rd Avenue Merchants Association about their formation of a bid, and they talk at length about how hard those lights are to put up, and our interview with the 5th Avenue bid about how much those lights cost to put up, and they almost did not happen this year.
And yet at the end of the day, the community was able to come together, everybody from our city councilman, Justin Brennan's, the business leaders, to people who have participated in these traditions for years were able to come together and make those lights happen. So even if, the lights aren't something that makes you smile and perk up and feel at home, this year, just know that that's something that our community came together and did because it's special to people. So today, we've talked a little about traditions. Today, we're going to talk about some of the things that we can all do to help our community get through this winter and some of the groups that are doing some really great work with the hope that listeners, you get involved, you reach out to whatever extent you can. These are the groups that are working right here on the ground in Bay Ridge to help make people's holiday season a little easier.
And the first one is the Bay Ridge Cares Holiday Wishes fundraiser. It ends on December 19th, not much time left. It's just about getting gifts under the Christmas tree, helping out people. If you haven't heard, on Thanksgiving, there was a big apartment debacle where a landlord had been cutting off gas to his residents for months.
Alan Paulin and Revlin Management have not repaired the gas since September.
And one of the things is one of the organizers against Alan Paulin and Revlin met one of the people from Bay Ridge Cares who managed to just go out to a couple of restaurants on 3rd, and they brought food to that apartment building for all the people who weren't able to cook on Thanksgiving. Bay Ridge Cares does so much good work. Just consider it's a Facebook donation thing. We'll have a link in the show notes, like all the things we're going to mention on today's episode. Go over there. If you can give, please do. Another one that's going on right now, Andrew Gounardes has a toy drive that is going until December 18th, so also not much time left. I hope you're listening to this podcast in a timely manner. And also, I guess we do have to acknowledge that, this winter is going to be really serious, and there are some groups that are distributing food and direct aid and COVID relief in the neighborhood that we think you should definitely check out if you haven't already.
So one of the first groups and the people behind this are very dear friends of the podcast. We're hoping to have them on, hopefully in the future. There's a group called Brooklyn Immigrant Community Support. It was founded back at the beginning of the pandemic. They have been working their butts off for months. They have fed something like 25,000, 30,000 people since the beginning of the pandemic. And this is what's called a mutual aid network. I know a lot of the progressives who listen to this podcast know exactly what that means. If it's not a term you're familiar with, it's when people in the community directly help their neighbors with food, with clothes, with any kind of need that needs to be fulfilled where people might be slipping through the cracks. And unfortunately, a lot of the COVID relief has been difficult for immigrant families to access. And that's for a variety of reasons. So BICS is really fulfilling a need that is a huge difference to a lot of families. They are fully independently funded. We're going to have a link to both their GoFundMe, their Facebook. Again, we know the founders personally. We know they're doing the work. We can completely vouch for the fact that your money is going directly to help these immigrant families. And right now, I was speaking with one of the founders the other day. They have ramped up to the point where they are providing, I think she said, 3,000 boxes of food a week.
Wow.
They get the food for free through partnerships with local businesses, but they have to pay for trucking and they have to pay for forklifts. And right now, to continue at that pace, they are going to need to be raising $2,500 per week. I can't overemphasize how valuable the work they're doing is, and every single dollar being donated goes back into supporting our neighbors, supporting those families.
Yeah. That's just a GoFundMe. It's always available. If you're listening to this in January or whenever, please just continue to give if you can. It is incredibly important. And the other one is AAANY, the Arab American Association of New York, if you haven't heard of them. And they've been giving tons of food out. Disclaimer, Mary, my wife, works for AAANY. She just came back a little bit earlier today from handing out food. And donations cannot go amiss there as well. And if you don't have, money to give this holiday season, that's also okay too. A lot of us are hurting. You might even consider just volunteering your time.
We have some electeds who have been very involved in finding people ways that they can help their neighbors. Senator Andrew Gounardes, who has just been reelected, posted a great list for volunteering both in the holidays and beyond.
Yeah, and we'll share those in the show notes. A couple of the ones that stood out to me: training to become a volunteer crisis counselor with the Trevor Project, volunteering at a community kitchen. There are a lot of churches in this neighborhood, and those food pantries are really going empty, so if you can donate food, look out for those. Make care kits for service members, veterans, and unhoused individuals. Volunteering, again, with BICS is on that list. Donating blood, even just something as simple as donating blood, especially during COVID, that's been really something that has not been happening as much in New York, and it's still very much needed.
And yeah, one of the things I really love on this list that Andrew put together, bake some holiday treats for a senior in your building or on your block, help them sign up for free meal delivery if they need it. A lot of times, we've all got our internet and our stuff going. There may be people in your building who would appreciate just being helped to sign up for things.
That's just something so simple as just, check in with a next door neighbor. And again, if you can't even do any of these things, that's also fine. Self-care this holiday season is going to be very important.
More important than ever.
Absolutely. And one of those things, on Friday and Saturday, December 18th and 19th, our friends at the Stand For Gallery, if you remember our episode about art galleries in Bay Ridge, they are hosting a small pop-up event called What Happened Here, which is featuring artists who actually you may have already seen their work out on Fifth Avenue, those benches that recently got painted in those artistic styles all along Fifth. They're going to have a pop-up gallery featuring those artists. So that might be something, you don't have to take a subway. You can just go walk and have an art gallery experience, socially distanced pop-up. And if you don't even want to do that, just go down the avenue and see those benches. It's like a little bit of an art project outdoors that you get to experience, seeing those lights, going and visiting your favorite shops, and even just doing delivery. All the indoor dining is pretty much shut down right now. Go Get stuff delivered, support your local restaurants if you can. Just do a little bit of research, maybe avoid the Seamless or the Grubhub and call them directly and see if that's something that they can do, because we know that Seamless and all of those companies take a little bit of a cut from those businesses. And tip your delivery workers, because they are putting themselves in harm's way. They are frontline workers, as far as I'm concerned, and they deserve the tip.
And actually on that front, and this is something I need to get better about personally, tip them in cash, not through the app. If you're ordering via Seamless or Grubhub, do your best to tip them in cash, because that way they get it and they get all of it.
Absolutely. So with that, there's just a couple of ways that we can make the neighborhood brighter for the holidays. I guess we'll see you guys after New Year. We have a really interesting 2021 coming up. Isn't that right, Rachel?
Oh, yes, we do. There's going to be some really exciting things. For the first time, we actually sat down and have, a year-long plan for the podcast going into, I believe, our 4th year.
Oh my gosh,
it just seems insane.
4 years of this.
Yeah, fall 2017. So
I mean, before we end, I do want to give a huge thank you to all of our Patreons, because we are now a fully self-sufficiently funded podcast.
And let's be very clear about what that means. We are all volunteers. We are still not getting paid. This is covering the monthly upkeep for some of the technology that we have to use.
Yeah, this is all going to the web hosting and all of that fun stuff.
Dan is no longer paying out of pocket.
Sneak preview for January, everyone. We are going to be tackling the NYPD, so look forward to that.
That seems very fair. They keep tackling.
Oh my goodness.
Going to get us in trouble.
We're just always going to be in trouble.
Happy holidays, and until next time,
stay free, Bay Ridge.